In the first video I did this week, the conflict between grace and performance, I highlighted the powerful example that Christ gave us in walking in truth and grace. Together, those can be done by love, right? When we show love to our employees as leaders, we can help them be the best version of themselves possible. Sometimes this does mean sharing with them insights about themselves that they're not going to really be excited about. Sometimes those insights even lead to having to release the employee from employment. So one of the comments I got on that last video, the previous one from JL4M, was how best to break this news to them so that they will take it the best and make the most use of it. So thank you very much, JL4M, for suggesting this idea. That's what I'm going to cover now. How to break difficult news to your employees in order for them to take that input and use it to their benefit without letting it really mess them up. Hi, my name is Shawn Sommerkamp, and this is Motivationeer Christian Coaching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Please hit the bell icon so you can be reminded every time I post a new video, which I do 2 times per week. Please also consider becoming a member at motivationeer.com. Your membership really supports this channel. Thank you. I'm going to treat this as if a client of mine just asked me during one of our calls, what do I do if I have to give my employees some bad news? Whether it be releasing them from employment, letting them know they have a does not meet expectations for this year's review, or some other bad news about their overall performance. How to do it in a way that gives them the best opportunity to leverage that wisdom for their own personal growth. And the simple answer is what we're telling ourselves as leaders before the communication or the meeting with that employee happens. This is the truth of Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 20. Do not revile the king even in your thoughts, or curse the rich in your bedroom, lest a bird of the air carry your words, a bird on the wing report what you say. The wisdom of that passage is basically teaching us whatever we're thinking about on the inside will be conveyed on the outside. Somehow. It happens below our conscious. That's why we say a little bird told me. It's a euphemism that we actually have gotten incorrect over the years. A little bird told me actually means we're harboring some type of intense thoughts on the inside and we're communicating it to others without realizing it. So to get your employees to understand the input you're giving them and use it best to their advantage, we want to first deal with the internal thoughts we're letting wander around in our mind before the meeting even happens. If we're telling ourselves one of the 4 internal blockers, which is limiting beliefs, that the employee is going to melt down from this news, we're going to take that negative energy into the meeting with us. And unfortunately, the employee is going to read that negative energy and melt down. In my opinion, this is a representation of what has been referred to as the Job principle. It's recorded that he said in the book of Job, "My worst fears have come true." It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So we don't want to take the negative energy with us into that meeting, which is really what the last video was about, the conflict between grace and performance. When we focus instead on the fact that we love this employee, we want the best for them, and they're not being their best. Maybe we know why, maybe we don't know why, but if we focus on the fact that envisioning a better version of them because they're going to take this feedback and be able to utilize it because you're shining a light on something that they don't know, we can go into the meeting with a much higher level of energy. So that means understanding the 4 internal blockers: fear, assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs. We don't want to make interpretations. We don't want to have limiting beliefs. We certainly don't want to have fear. And if we've ever had an experience in the past with an employee or this employee where they didn't like our feedback, if we bring the assumption it's going to happen again into the meeting, again, it's going to create negative energy in us that they're going to pick up on and they're going to reflect back to us. What we're going to end up doing, honestly, is blocking them from receiving this great truth. So prepare yourself for the meeting by praying to God, First of all, for wisdom, James 1:5. And then what I always say is pray to God that you can find favor in the eyes of the person you're meeting with. And in this case, the employee that you're going to deliver some news that is going to be uncomfortable for them. This is from Nehemiah 1:11 and Nehemiah 2:18, if I'm remembering that correctly, where Nehemiah prayed to God to find favor in the eyes of Artaxerxes. And then when he left the meeting with Artaxerxes, after Artaxerxes gave him all this great resources to go rebuild the temple, it says, and because the gracious hand of my God was upon me, the king granted my request. So pray that you'll find favor in the eyes of this employee first. Then focus on sharing this truth with them in love. This is the truth and grace, right? Be loving as you share it with them. We want to have that mindset of love on our lips, in our hearts, on our minds, long before we ever get into that meeting. So quick side note, if you have a consistent struggle with this employee and you really do find it hard loving that person, that's something you really want to work on. This is a good highlight of an area in your life you can focus on. So really, maybe you want to set aside some time to focus on loving this person. When you start the meeting off, ask the employee how they feel they did so far this year. Most companies do ask the employee before the manager meeting with the employee to write their own performance appraisal. So you'll have kind of an idea of it, but don't go off of that. That tends to be something that they think very carefully about and they rehearse. You want to help them tap into their intuition in this moment. So you ask them when the meeting gets started, so tell me overall, how do you think you did this year? Let them give their answer. Then you ask, what do you feel you could have done better this year? This is the classic, what went well, what didn't go well, what do you want to do different? Of course, you can ask those three questions in sequence. That works just the same. The idea is you want to ask them intuitively to assess themselves in the moment right in front of you. If they answer that question by saying, didn't you read my report? That is probably them starting off with some negative energy, which we don't want to bite. We don't want to, bite that bait. We can let that go. Just say, yeah, I did read it. I just want to hear it as you see it now. You can even say intuitively. And then when they tell you how they feel they did, if they're not being honest with themselves and they paint themselves like, man, I was amazing, then you can say, well, what could you have done better? This helps warm them up to the idea that we can all do things better. And what you're about to deliver to them is your perspective on wanting to help them be their best. Sometimes before giving that news that might be difficult to deal with, remember, it's not bad news, this is great news. They just might not perceive it that way. You can let them know, I really believe in you and I want the best for you. There have been times where I've had to release an employee, and after the meeting with them, they thanked me for it because I love them. That's what I always strive to do. I can't remember, honestly, an employee that I did not love. I know that there were some employees that our personalities, we had a clash because of, the classic DISC. I'm a, high D, and maybe I had someone who was a high S. But when we love our employees, we look to their best interest, we envision seeing them as their best, we're being like Christ. Christ believed very much in the 12. These were not schooled men. They weren't brilliant. They were, some reports say teenagers. It's very likely that they were, in their 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. But Jesus saw a brilliant future for them and kept that in mind. Sometimes that brilliant future for your employee is going to be outside the company. It still doesn't mean you don't envision them doing great things. Maybe they're not a fit for this role. Maybe they're not a fit for your company. When we prepare our minds beforehand, filled with love, caring for them, we start off with the energy that they're going to accept very nicely. They're going to reflect that great positive energy back to you. Then when we speak to them, let's make sure we're letting them know we care about them, we want their very best, then ask them how they feel like they've done. Dig a little bit here. Remember, we want to ask, not tell. Eventually, you're going to have to do some telling because you are going to share with them your feedback. But let's start with the ask, don't tell. Get them to have that little epiphany about themselves in that moment. They're going to be much more primed to hear your truth and, of course, accept your love when you do it this way. If you've ever done something that has worked very well for you as a leader in breaking news that might be uncomfortable for an employee or a customer, I would love it if you share it below. I'm always learning from people. I always want to add to my learning, and I would really appreciate that too. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for 2 new videos each week. Tell me in the comments below about your career situation, and I'll make a video for you with a shout out. You can also become a member at motivationeer.com. Your career is not just a way to make a living, it's a way to transform the world.